stay there, because I like to point out something that is very relevant, which is these people once came to Candlestick representing your NSOs, representing your youth programs, representing volunteers in your region. And they came to keep Baden's Power Dream alive. Now, they're back in your region, right? Representing Baden's Power Dream, the one that they fought to keep alive, and they're striving and doing many things that are so positive for the region. So let's give him another round of applause. Thank you very much to the staff here. Now, how does the center look today? The center, over the last 100 years, have welcomed more than 1 million scouts and guides from all over the world, from 115 countries. We have had approximately 5,000 staff members. Upon more or less, we don't have data from all the years, but more or less 400 to 500 have been from this region. Okay, so something to acknowledge. How can you keep on engaging with Candlestick International Scout Center, with the World Scout Center? There is many different ways. You can look for volunteer opportunities and encourage your young volunteers to represent your NSOs and NSAs and region at the World Scout Center. You can come for events. You can come for trainings and education initiatives. You can sponsor a room and gain the visibility that your country, your NSO, deserves. And you can also become a member of the KISS Association, so you have voice and vote on the matters of the World Scout Center, on the matters of the place that welcome so many thousands of scouts from all over the world every year. Now, the most important one is you can encourage and look for ways of bringing groups of scouts so they can experience that feeling of a jamboree any time of the year, every year. The concept of the permanent jamboree is more alive than ever, is thriving, and we're ready to welcome you all. So with that, I'm gonna say thank you for letting me be here today. Thank you to the conference, to the region, for inviting us to be here. Let's keep in touch. You're gonna scan that QR code, and that will take you to some of the ways we communicate with people around the world. And see you in Candlestick, I hope. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pani. Please remain on stage as Brother Simon and RDGR will present the certificate of appreciation. Javier Pani Petisco, Director of World Scout, Candlestick International Scout Center. Again, thank you to all of our partners for their presentations, Bookbridge Foundation, WEX, and Candlestick International Scout Center. So can you please give our one more round of applause for our partners? Thank you. Our agenda next will be the presentation of the breakout group reports. Rapporteurs, please contain your reports to a maximum of 10 minutes. 1 or 2 questions may be entertained after each report is presented, if there is time still. Okay, let's start with Asia Pacific Region Strategy for Scouting 2025-2028 with 7 priority items. The first one to present the report is Innovate Education. Rapporteurs, the floor is yours. Where is the rapporteurs? Again, each rapporteur is reminded you only have 10 minutes. introduce yourself first, please.
Hello, conference. Yeah, so I'm Nathan from the Scout Association of Hong Kong.
And I'm Emma from the Scout Association of Australia.
Yeah, and we're here to present the findings from our breakout group on innovative education. So let's start off with some key insights that we had, and we'll introduce what our discussion. Right, so the first thing we discussed was, of course, about the objectives inside the APR strategy and also on the KPIs, whether they were achievable and whether that they're relevant to our NSOs. So after a discussion among ourselves, we had a broad support for all four of the objectives and KPIs, but we did have a more intense discussion on the first one, which is on innovation of the youth program. And we had a slight discussion on whether 4 or 6 NSOs would be more appropriate for the first triennium. So in the strategy, it was written as 6 NSOs with the aim of achieving 18 NSOs by the end of the strategy, which is 3 trienniums away. So some of us voiced out their concerns that having to complete the innovation of the youth program by 2028 might be difficult because the innovation and review process might take a lot of time. But then others also voiced and pointed out that a lot of our NSOs have already begun their own review of their programs. So to achieve 6 by 2028 should be quite achievable. So in the end, we did reach a consensus that all of the KPIs and objectives are suitable inside the strategy.
Yes. The rest of our conversations centered around the interpretation of innovation, and we had quite a good discussion around what do we understand the word innovation to mean, and how does this fit in the context of education. We also discussed plenty of different action steps, which we'll provide a summary of shortly. And another key discussion that happened throughout our workshop was around language accessibility and translation, and the need to be able to understand and utilise documents in multiple languages. So, some of our recommended actions.
All right, so we began with the first one, which is on educational programs. And we began by thinking, how could we actually help NSOs to innovate their programs within the next triennium? The first one was on capacity building. So there could be workshops on the regional level on contextualization and on youth culture, and of course about how to innovate our youth program. It would be more preferable if there would be support given to our youth program leads in all NSOs so that we could all have a clearer way and a clearer process to approach innovating and review. There could also be workshops on specific topics as needed. For example, the introduction of the new GPS system from WUSM.
We also talked about having plenty of storytelling opportunities, so sharing stories of best practices, and this to be not just across our workshops and other opportunities there. We also talked about the tools that might be required around impact measurement, monitoring and evaluation, and equally reaching out for WASM services and consultants to support us through a process of innovation.
The next topic was on peace education. Yeah.
Yes, so this was around 10 NSOs or 30% having integrated peace education initiatives in their youth programs. So here again, we had a lot around capacity building. So our workshops with having multiple regional level workshops, not just NSO specific ones, around a greater understanding and exploration of our Scouts for SDGs initiatives, and particularly some that are targeted to specific challenges within the Messengers of Peace initiative. And then the integration and application and workshops and other support provided to integrate with existing youth programs where there are many NSOs that have a youth program and how this might then fit in.
We also acknowledge that storytelling is very important to implementing peace education. So this includes having NSO sharings, toolkits with the best practices, and also case studies on what NSOs have been currently doing. It's also important to have the necessary personnel in place to support NSOs to implement peace education. So some of us suggested having an expanded coordinator network that covers the other pillars of our Scouts for SDGs. And of course, external partnerships is also very important, as we heard from our partners earlier today. And it would be nice if those could be incorporated or their expertise could be called upon during our innovation. Moving on environmental sustainability, we also focused on capacity building first. So it would be nice if there are train-the-trainer programs, especially for each specific initiative inside our Scouts for SDGs program, so one for each of the 4 pillars, and also for integration and application within our existing youth programs so that youths are more motivated to join in this environmental education.
We also talked about expanding our recognition with our climate champions, or Earth Tribe warriors, as the phrase was coined, and increasing our global advocacy campaigns around global days, local initiatives that we might be not aware of and or undertaking, and encouraging a greater youth change makers or young change makers experience. Equally, we talked about impact measurement in events, particularly in our sustainability space, and once again, our WASM consultants and services. For youth leadership, again, we moved through capacity building in particular was a common theme, as you have seen on our slides. We talked about intergenerational workshops, about training guide implementation, and noting that some of this is equally coming through the World Operational Framework, and then opportunities for young leaders through events, summits, and workshops.
Moving on to tools and support, we acknowledge that there should be a baseline measurement of how NSOs are doing and the current youth leadership situation across the region before we can implement or think of a way to implement youth leadership. Another thing is for measurement tools for external impact. So how youth leadership is actually making a change within our NSOs and outside our NSOs as well. And of course, resources targeted at scout groups and units. So youth leadership is taught from the ground up and not only at the national, regional, or world levels. Finally, mentoring is also important as part of the capacity building process, and it would be nice if it could be incorporated into our NSO's framework or youth leadership capacity building schemes so that young people can receive the training, the mentorship, and the guidance as they develop themselves into young leaders.
So finally, some big ideas and reflections from this breakout. So we want to make sure that, and it came across all of our discussions, there was an increased awareness and access of WASM services and the role that consultants and the services more broadly can play in supporting our NSOs to achieve some of these KPIs. As Nathan has already mentioned, we talked about the coordinator network and the need for that to be expanded and to have potentially multiple coordinators within an NSO or support for each of the separate pillars within the Better World Framework and the Scouts for SDGs to have a contact point and coordinated through one central person, yes, but so that expertise can be shared across a range of people and disseminated through acknowledging that it is a large area to cover.
Right, and then of course, capacity building as seen is evident across all 4 of our KPIs and objectives, but not only for young leaders, but also for our NSO leadership as well, so that it could be incorporated from the ground up, and also that NSOs could be able to facilitate it on a national level. And finally, an idea that we raised is for young people to be involved at all regional events for national leadership, including, of course, our conference, our leaders summit, and of course, hopefully at the world level as well. Right, that's it from us, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nathan Y. Honpoon of Hong Kong, Emma Watson of Australia. Can you please still wait and stay on the stage and let us know if there are any questions or clarification, observations? None? Pass? Okay. Give a big round of applause for Nathan and Emma. Thank you. Now, let's proceed to strengthening diversity and inclusion. Please, rapporteur, the floor is yours. Again, each rapporteur is reminded you only have 10 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Hello, conference. I am Ruhi, representing Strengthen Diversity and Inclusion. Key discussions in our team revolved around various practices in our different NSOs, how balance is ensured, how intergenerational integration is ensured, and so on. And also, if the objectives were SMART, which are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely, and we have agreed on the following. So for key insights, next one, please. Oh, that is our group for your information. Okay. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry. Yeah. For key insights, the objective and KPI is supported. We have a variety of effective D&I programs and practices across the region. Many are targeted to a specific population or need in a specific community. And we believe that greater communication about these could assist other NSOs to implement new programs like them. And during our discussions, we had wonderful projects and ideas shared, such as the very well-known Ticket to Life project that runs all across the region and is very much a representation of diversity and inclusion of people coming from many backgrounds. We also have the Lone Scout program that is in place in South Australia, where scouts join scout activities from a distance using radio and internet communication technologies. So these are very wonderful ideas that were shared and discussed during our team discussions, and we could take some ideas to take it to our own NSOs. For 2B, we support the objective, but in our opinion, the performance indicator here requires some tweaking, as the word underserved used here had some confusion around it, and we believe we could work on it more. So we are requesting that it is mentioned and explained in the glossary, for example, or stronger replacement be offered for this word in the KPI. So for recommended actions, the common theme in our conversation, or rather the highlight of our discussion, were on how to identify, be it hurdles or who to reach out to, or which resources and tools can help, and how to promote the solutions to everyone. So our recommended actions are focused on the following. These are our recommended ideas. The first one is develop a resource to assist NSOs to identify and reduce barriers related to diversity and inclusion. Second one is designing checklists and toolkits to support results gained from this resource. And third is widely promote successful practices in all areas of D&I and share across the region. And under the more direct actions, we had various activities and plans offered, such as trainings, toolkits, workshops, community-based projects, consultations, and best practices sharing, etc. Now for the big idea or reflection. For our team, we thought a resource, to sum it up, we thought that a resource should be developed to assist any NSO at all levels to identify barriers to enable young people and adults to participate in scouting. So under that, each NSO should be encouraged to use this package to support growth. And the results of information or data gathered should be incorporated into the future plans for growth for each NSO. And after all that, membership growth that is achieved should be widely promoted in the NSO and across the region as well. So these were all our gathered ideas and sharings. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Strengthening Diversity and Inclusion Group, presented by Ruhi Rusaba Jahwa Jahan from Bangladesh. I will open the floor for any questions, if any. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions, observations, views.
And we are here during the whole conference, so if you have any questions, you can reach out after this session as well.
Thank you, Ruhi. Let's give our applause again. Next, please take our turn to guarantee safety and well-being group. Rapporteur, the floor is yours. Again, allows me to remind you that only 10 minutes to present your group result. Please introduce yourself first.
Hello, I'm Keith from Scout Association for Hong Kong.
I'm James. Hello, I'm James from National Scout Organization of Thailand. Today, we would like to present you on our breaking group of the guarantee safeguarding and well-being.
Yeah, so for the key insights of guaranteeing safeguarding and well-being, so for the first part, so we believe that every NSO or countries will have their own child protection regulations. So each NSO should try to align its safe from harm policy with the national child protection laws applicable in this country. And another thing will be in terms of their challenges of safe from harm implementations. So we find that localization will be one of the problems. So to localize of the resources, including guidelines, their learning materials to fit in their context will be difficult because of their language barriers, different ethics norms, or even the regulations. But for the opportunities of implementing safeguarding policies, so we have the support from other NSO as well as the support from the USAM and APR. So for our recommended actions of safeguarding for our topics, so the first one will be we would like to change our KPI from 33 NSO compliant with the USAM safe from harm requirement by 2033 to 2028 to show our importance and the necessity to implement the safe from harm policies in each NSOs.
All right, the second point we would like to make is the APR committee and APR support center should proactively support the NSO to help each NSO to develop their own safe from harm policy that is consistent with both their local legal frameworks and also the safe from harm policy. Okay, so in this point, we would like the support center and also the wisdom to help us to ask in each NSO for their need and their help and their assistance to focus what they want to. And also, our big idea and also the reflection of the guarantee safeguarding and well-being, it would be this quote. We should consider each NSO cultural diversity and also national policy during the development and also the implementation of the safe from harm policy. That is for our group. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kit Lai of Hong Kong and James from Thailand. Again, I will open the floor for any questions, if any. Pass. Thank you very much, Keith and James. Guarantee Safety and Well-being Group. Next, now the turn to report of value volunteering groups. Rapporteur, all right. Your time is 10 minutes. Please introduce yourself.
Kia ora, I'm Lisa from Scouts Australia.
G'day, I'm Liam from Scouts Aotearoa.
We have the pleasure of reporting back on the value volunteering breakout room. Yeah, we had a really engaged conversation, some really challenging thoughts put across, received really well. And we're just going to summarise some of the points for you.
Awesome. Key insights of valuing adult volunteers. So our group was comfortable with that metric outlined as the KPI, provided that all volunteers pass background checks at a minimum. So our conversation was around ensuring that the volunteers we have coming into our organisations and then beyond are quality volunteers that bring a diversity of thought and experience. So creating a safe space for our youth, as well as strengthening the voices in the room.
Yeah, and the other one we looked at was the 19%, which is the 6 NSOs who have developed strategies or policies made, or made improvements to flexible volunteering and to unite, to recruit diverse volunteers. We saw that 19% as a minimum, those 6 NSOs as a minimum. So there was a really strong feeling in the group that that was something that we could meet and hopefully exceed as well.
Jumping to our recommended actions to enhance and value volunteering. So again, those background checks being a minimum for all adult members and a non-negotiable aspect of volunteering to really strengthen the region and become world leaders in this space. And there's a really clear need articulated by our group to approach the recruitment and retention of volunteers contextually, matching the scouting context and cultural context of their NSO.
And then finally, that piece of WASM support. This was sort of a shared space. We felt that there was a lot of NSOs doing really great things, not just in APR, but around the world. And that those case studies could be small little projects that people have taken on and had great success with, through to really big meaty topics, really big projects where NSOs have really made some ground and got some good data and advice for other NSOs. So to keep those coming and to keep those accessible, but provide that broad knowledge base. Equally, the support for some flexible volunteering and value volunteering toolkits, either from a national perspective, so there's NSO's perspective, or something that WASM could lead the way on with some suggestions and a bit of a pathway in how to develop that tool themselves. But equally with some of those translation supports to make sure that the people we're trying to talk to can understand the message regardless of where they are in the world.
And a big idea around strengthening and valuing volunteering is the diversity in decision making. So ensuring that all voices are in the room and contributing to the decision making, which was a cross breakout group theme that came through around ensuring all voices are represented.
Yep. Yeah, and so just to round that conversation out, we had a really in-depth discussion around what diversity means to different NSOs, what are some of the topics in the room that the expertise, if you like, that we need to get in some of the rooms, and what we want our local groups to look like, what we want our scouting to look like more broadly. So it might include intergenerational, it might include gender, so having maybe a woman or women involved in some of the decision-making in some of your groups. Certainly abilities, people with disabilities as well, getting their perspectives and experiences and things to make sure that we're covering any gaps of knowledge that we have. Young people, absolutely. And different beliefs as well. We might be well-intentionally heading down a path, but we don't understand the impact of what this policy, procedure, program may bring to a group of people within our movement. And we should be consulting with them and making sure that their involvement they are involved in these decision-making processes to strengthen us all as an organisation. And as it says on the slide there, we are enriched by having other opinions and expertise and experiences, perspectives, and it makes it a lot stronger overall. That was us, I think.
Yeah, big thank you to all of our group, the chairs and the note takers. In the interest of time, that's us.
Thank you. Lisa Picking and Leon from Australia. I will open the floor again. If any questions, observations, or views. All right, none. Thank you, Lisa and Leon. Next, we would like to hear from the group of A Fit for Future organization. Rapporteur, the floor is yours.
Hi, it's Yujaz again from the Maldives.
And I'm Raihan from Gerakan Pramuka Indonesia.
And we are here today to share with you the discussions that we did earlier this afternoon about a fit for purpose organization. So let me introduce to you what were some key insights from our discussions. So the first one is about strengthening governance and accountability requires alignment with GSET 3.0, emphasizing transparency and youth leadership in decision making. So when we go through the current strategic plan for the upcoming triennium, we can see that there are 5 KPIs under a fit for purpose. And each of them is about having a set number of NSOs conforming to a certain part of the GSET 3.0 strategy. So our main key takeaway is that for this region to get started on these KPIs, the NSOs initially still needs to do a self-assessment. So we can identify which NSOs requires support in the specific areas as identified in the KPIs. Next one is that financial sustainability depends on diversified and ethical income streams and also support for NSOs to maximize their existing resources. The third point, which is actually a point that is very close to my heart as well, is that the impact of climate change must be addressed through both mitigation and adaptation strategies integrated into NSO operations. And the reason why I am highlighting both mitigation and adaptation strategies is because, for example, if you take a small island state like the Maldives, the greenhouse emissions from our country is relatively low, about 0.003% compared to the rest of the world. You could, on its face value, you can say it is negligible. But at the same time, being a small island state, we are in the front lines in facing the diverse effects of climate change, global warming, and so on and so forth. So that's why this is a very key important point to be discussed in this triennium. Fourth point is that the youth participation in decision-making is still low, and there's a need for systematic inclusion of youth at all levels, not just at the topmost level of the decision-making, but also in the grassroots levels as well. And lastly, organizational transformation and technology leverage are essential for efficiency and relevance.
Thank you. We had a good and fruitful discussion, and with these insights in mind, we move to propose or to suggest some recommended actions for a fit-for-purpose organization, purpose future organizations, to achieve the state of being fit for purpose. Next. The first, the general one, is the suggestion for the KPI itself. It is to add and further additions, and also without recording any major, any major, non-conformity. Yes. So the final suggestion of this point is to encourage NSOs to access with GSAT 3.0 or Global Support Assessment Tools 3.0 and further additions and score more than 70% across dimensions of governance out of 10 dimensions without recording any major conformity. The rationale or our comments are about the focus should be on encouraging and supporting all the NSOs to accept the GSAT framework. Specifically addressing major non-conformity issues, we also discussed supporting NSOs in transforming their governance structure. Next. It's being cut, sorry. Yeah. We can move to the triennial plan 5A. The only one suggestion was only the grammatical issue, that is has it adjusted to have, become have word. And we have our suggested actions. First, support the NSO to conduct self-assessment to identify NSOs requiring support in D2 of GSAT 3.0. The D2 is the governance framework dimension. And the second, support NSOs in conducting organizational design, leadership development, and leveraging technology. And the last one is monitor and evaluate. Next, the triennial plan 5B. Yeah, we have no suggested KPI for the KPI for the 5B, but we have the suggested actions with the rationale of acknowledging for some NSOs that have existing income streams, it might not be feasible to adopt a new one. The suggestion is to include supporting NSOs with existing diversified income streams to strengthen or maximize their current income streams. Ijaz?
Thank you. Taking over, let's look at the triennial plan objective 5C, which is about the climate sustainability action plan integration into the national strategy and implementation of at least 2 operational actions. So when we're talking about this, as I mentioned before, for some countries, it requires climate mitigation efforts. But for the other countries, climate adaptation efforts are more relevant. So our suggested action is to include both mitigation and adaptation strategies. And then we have triennial plan 5E. Yes, okay. So this is about youth leadership and youth involvement in the decision-making process. So our suggested improvement for the KPI is to upscale it from 10 NSOs, 30%, to 17 NSOs, 50%. Quite a scary number now, isn't it? But the rationale behind that is because 30% is relatively quite less in the terms of young people in decision-making process. We believe we can start working on this to try to achieve this. Too fast? Sorry. And some of our, apparently I speak quite fast, so I have him here to slow me down if I'm speaking too fast. So some suggested actions that we are proposing under this KPI is to support the localization and implementation of YLIDM in NSOs to build the capacity of young people so that they can effectively contribute in the decision-making bodies. This is understanding that there are different cultural barriers and intergenerational barriers in different NSOs. Thank you. The current YLIDM framework has different strategies outlined which can cater the different barriers from each NSO. So if we support NSOs in localizing YLIDM, we can implement strategies that are more relevant to those NSOs so that young people can be effective in the decision-making process. And we are also suggesting to assess and include young people in the decision-making processes at the grassroots levels as well. And for those of you who are quite perceptive, you can notice that we jumped from 5C to 5E without talking about 5D. Because from our discussions, we are quite happy with the way that 5D is already in the triennial plan to achieve 90% satisfaction from the evaluation of regional events.
Yes, and then the last part of this presentation will be a big idea or reflection for a fit-for-purpose organization. A fit-for-purpose organization is not only defined by its structure, but by its adaptability, by blending transparency, sustainability, and youth-driven leadership to keep Scouting relevant and resilient in a changing world. Any addition?
That's good for me.
If enough, the last slide from our group is the thank you slide.
Thank you very much. Please give our hand to Raihan Sujaya of Indonesia and Mohammed Yujaz Yazid from Maldives. Any questions for them? Yes, I saw one raised hand. Eric from Korea.
Hello, my name is Eric Hong, and then I was the lead for the breakout group. But one thing that we missed from the presentation is before we having the breakout group discussions, our group and the leads of the breakout groups have figured out that we don't know about the current situations of the regions. For example, the APR training plans request for us to achieve the certain amount of the NSOs to achieve for each KPIs. However, the current training plans didn't include any fact sheets or any informations that which NSOs already achieved, which certain KPIs. So if the member states, if the NSOs could deliver some informations about which items they already completed or in the progress to moving forward those items, it should be really helpful for the regional scout committee and the regional support centers to assess that which countries needed to be served by the regional office and regional committee. So our breakout group kind of urged to the NSOs to submit those data that what is the progress on each KPI items so that we could assess much more transparently and accountably for the next trienniums. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. All right, any more questions? Observations, views? All right, thank you, Raihan and Yujas from Indonesia and Maldives. Thank you, Eric, student of the Columbia University. Next, an adaptable organization. Let's proceed to the floor. Rapporteur of the unadaptable organization. Thank you.
Good afternoon, conference. My name is Nora from Brunei Scouts Association, representing the group discussion and adaptive organization. So we have agreed from our discussion on the KPIs set out in the APR strategy 2025 to 2033, namely, let me read it out, 10 or 30% NSOs utilizing data and digital tools in their operations and on decision making. And also we agreed on the 2 KPIs of the APR triennial plan KPI 2025 and 2028. That's 6 or 19% NSOs to have built their research capacities and embedded effective mechanism across the organization to measure the impact of scouting and allow for data-informed decision-making. The other KPI is the 10 or 30% NSOs to have conducted a risk assessment and integrated key findings into their national strategic or operational plans. We agreed that these 3 KPIs are well laid out and achievable. From our discussion, next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. From our discussions, we have agreed to recommend 3 key points. Firstly, with regard to data collection and research, we need to assess the current state of our NSOs and look at areas that can be improved and come up with a benchmark or framework to guide NSOs in data measurement qualitatively and quantitatively. Next slide. We also, secondly, we also need a timeline to ensure that our plan falls in line. This is because everyone is not the same. No size fits all. So this is very important. And also we need this timeline so that the implementation of our plan is at the right time. Thirdly, we need to share best practices on ways to go about our digital transformation from those NSOs that have well-developed systems, as well as reach out towards them to ensure that we are on the right path. So lastly, finally, our reflection. We believe that there is a need to build on our existing system and work a network and improve them further, as well as reach out to all NSOs to build our capacity in digital transformation and impact measurement. That's it.
Thank you, Ibu Noras Lianah Ibrahim of Brunei Darussalam. Any question? Views, observation, reflections? No? Thank you, Ibu Nora of the Unadaptable Organization Breakout Group. Next, the last but not the least priority, please, rapporteur of the Uninfluential Organization. Uninfluential Organization, rapporteur, please come forward. Okay.
Hello everyone, I am Hussein Juhair Juhan from the Bangladesh Scouts, representing the Breakout Group Influential Organization.
And my name is Hussein Yamin Ali from the Scout Association of Maldives.
So as per the strategy, our discussion during the Breakout Group revolved around 3 key points. 1, how do we strongly and clearly communicate our values as an organization? Secondly, how do we build sustainable partnerships? And thirdly, how do we make sure that our advocacy agenda is relevant to today's needs of the young people? And throughout the discussion, we have had the honor of hearing from multiple NSOs and their key insights. But before moving on to the insights, it's important that we discuss the amendments that we would like to propose from the Breakout Group in the KPI. The first one addresses the issue of more precise wording regarding the recognition from our major stakeholders as the leaders of non-formal education. Basically to say, it's a simple grammatical change to make things a little more clearer. And we also increased the number of NSOs that would accomplish this KPI by the end of 2023. And the next one?
And the next KPI amendment that we're proposing is when we had a discussion, our group agreed that 18 NSOs is enough NSOs to contribute to this triennial plan to implement advocacy campaigns. And the only change that we're trying to bring is to change the wordings of participation and engagement as addressed in the YLDM, the difference between participation and engagement, and we need to engage young people throughout the whole process of the advocacy campaign.
And during the discussions, there were certain issues that were brought up, and it was understood that we face these issues across our region in different capacities. And the first one is the issue with our visibility and perception.
And the next one is limited partnerships and collaborations in local context.
And the third one being that how do we communicate who we are as an organization to large societies beyond scouting? So basically, not just to communicate that we are campers and hikers, but to improve our perception in the sense that we are the organization that give young people the hand-on experience in leadership and make them ready for the day that is to come.
And the lack of unified advocacy and messaging strategies across the whole APR.
In that regard, we tried to address that even though we have a push from the OSM and the APR for advocating for certain causes, there is a lack of a present guideline that would be adaptable for the NSOs. And on those key issues, we have come up with certain recommended actions.
So the first proposed solution is doing a public perception survey to provide benchmarks across the APR region on the external perception of scouting to measure the progress of the external visibility. We need to know how people outside of this movement perceive us. We need to have a good brand image to know that what we need to do to make our movement stronger, and also to know what we need to do when we are putting out messaging as well.
And the second one is about developing a holistic toolkit adaptable to our NSOs that contains a long-term framework on advocacy, messaging strategies, and also to have an assessment and evaluation process within the toolkits so that we can work on our shortcomings within the next triennium.
And the last one is to encourage NSOs to develop partnerships with other youth organizations to create and implement common advocacy agendas. This will ensure that we have more partners to work with and to find more partners that we have common grounds with across each NSOs.
This was an issue discussed highly during our breakout group because in each and every of our NSOs, there are other organizations who address the same issues as WOSM does. And it is important that as an organization, we take the lead in building those partnerships. And then ending with the big ideas and reflections. So for the reflections, we have 3 questions for all of us. The first one is influence. So what influences do we already have as an organization, and what influences can we have moving forward in the future? The second one, how do we ensure that our NSOs remain influential within each of our countries? And these two, the answers of these 2 questions are for us to find out together. And the last one is that how can we influence others, and who can we influence in our common advocacy agenda? For that question, there is an answer. We can influence everyone, be it the youth and the adult. And we need to make sure as we move on in this journey, our influence remains relevant for all age groups across our region. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Rapporteur from an influential organization from Maldives and Bangladesh. Both has same names. Hussein Yamin Ali from Maldives and Hussein Zuhair Zuhan. So both of you are Hussein, right? Okay. Any questions? Reflections? No? Views? All right. Thank you. Hussein and Hussein, you may go back. Thank you, an influential organization group. That concludes the breakout group reports for the 7 priorities of the Asia Pacific region strategy for scouting 2025-2028. Now let's proceed with the last 2 groups, Safe from Harm and WOSM branding. Let's start with Safe from Harm. We invite you to present your report. So please take the floor. Safe from Harm group.
Kia ora, everyone. My name is Rani, and I am from Scouts Aotearoa, New Zealand. Am I able to get my slides up, please? Anyway, I'll continue. So, our session was run on Safe from Harm, similar to the Guarantee Safety and Wellbeing breakout session. But our session, instead of focusing more on the triennial plan, we talked about what are the requirements, membership requirements for an NSO with regards to Safe from Harm. And I'd like to first start with a real special thank you to everyone who engaged in the breakout. We managed to make a really safe space where everyone was talking, contributing, and giving us a realistic understanding of what Safe from Harm looks like in their NSO. So we went into the detail. We looked at what are the 6 key areas of what happens when you're doing a Safe from Harm self-assessment. And the key 6 areas that every NSO, and it's highlighted red when you're doing the self-assessment, I see a few people nodding, I'm glad to see you've done it, is that you need to have a national Safe from Harm policy, you need to have background checks for all adults, and you have to have Safe from Harm embedded into the youth program. We also want mandatory safeguarding training, as well as a reporting procedure and a coordinator for Safe from Harm. We explored some of the challenges, and it was quite interesting for me, coming from Scouts Aotearoa, New Zealand, to find out that there's some legal challenges for some countries where you can't actually request police vetting forms. And so you rely on the integration of employers. And I think that is a challenge that we really need to consider as a region. How can we overcome some of these legal barriers that sit within your country? We also had some really interesting insights shared by Alston as to how Safe from Harm can be integrated quite easily into your school-based systems. Some of the key points that he pointed out were your school environment has a Safe from Harm policy. Your schools will be doing background checks. Your schools will have a manager of if something happens in scouting that you can refer back to from the same staff as your teachers. And rather than replicating the wheel like as an NSO, you could just take those systems and integrate that in your reporting procedures and just be consolidating one from each school. And I thought that was something interesting that maybe some of the countries here hadn't considered. Thank you. And then on to the recommendations. So we had several key recommendations that we wanted both NSOs and the new subcommittee that will be stood up tomorrow to consider. And one of those recommendations is, let's create a clear suggestion of what a Safe from Harm coordinator does. Because across the NSOs that we talked to in the room, there were some different requirements as to what we as NSO leadership expect of them. The other idea was that we could create a virtual Safe from Harm coordinator network. This network would help support our countries to share best practice between each other. No longer would we have to wait for every 3 years for us to come together and speak face to face. There'll be someone dedicated in our NSO to share that best practice and support each other. And then also, we all have Safe from Harm policies, or we're in the development of them. But when we make these policies, how readable are they? One example, taken from our own NSO, is our safeguarding policy is a picture book. So I'm not sure if anyone here, other than 2 people over there, who know what the word karahi means. It actually means adult leader. But you don't need to know that, because you can clearly see there's one adult amongst small kids, and that's not good. There's no adults, also not good. But the big tick, 2 bigger people, 2 adults looking after our young people. So we can clearly, through pictograms, show what it means to have good practice. And we also talked about how a subcommittee could work to support the policy and procedures being localised down at the local level. So we're not just doing safe from harm training, safe from harm checks, safe from harm support at a national level or at an event. We're doing it week in, week out at everyday scouting. And then what can we do to create a positive culture where we all want to contribute to making sure that we're keeping our young people safe, that we're keeping each other safe, that we're keeping everyone who engages with scouting safe so that we have a positive brand image and a positive attitude? And how can we share the safe from harm capacity building modules that exists already at WASM? How can we share? How can we engage? And lastly, much like the other group, we put through a very strong sentiment that we want the new subcommittee to proactively share best practice and offer support based on the self-assessments that we will be doing this triennium. So with that, I would like to say thank you and open the floor to any questions.
Thank you. Rani Sentina Sharma Kelderman of New Zealand. Any observation, reflections, questions? None? Thank you very much, Rani. Let's give a big applause again for Rani. And next, we come into the last presenter from WASM Branding. The floor is yours. Rapporteur, please present your WASM Branding discussion results. Oh, the well-known NOFA.
Good evening, conference. It is my pleasure to present the discussions and recommendations from the breakout group that we are discussing on WASM branding. I wouldn't take much of your time considering this is the last breakout group today. We'll be sharing the action plans that we have come up with. Thank you for all the contributors, the participants, and all those who attended the breakout group. Now, the Communication and External Relations Subcommittee of the Asia-Pacific region has done so much over the past 3 years to ensure that the communication and the diversification of our media game has gone strong. However, we understand that these efforts have still can be better improved. At first, when it comes to the action plans, we believe that there is a need for stronger and more accessible branding tools. Now, these points are very technical. Well, we believe that the brand.scout.org provides a central repository of brand resources. Our participants believe that it can be effectively improved by allowing just a simple tweak, allowing us to download all these items, these colors, these palettes, this typography, as a single consolidated package rather than having to download it one by one. Now, this simple action can really change a lot of our scout designers out there, can really change the life of those who are using our branding for the goods of scouting. Moving on to number 2, we believe that there's a need for a credible and authentic online presence. Now we are looking into venturing into partnerships with social media organizers to ensure that every National Scout organizations or events or those who are carrying an official Scout purpose can have an authentic online presence. We also believe that perhaps the Asia-Pacific region can look into consolidating the official list of NSOs, social medias, and website links to ensure that we are not confused which ones are authentic, which ones are not. We can then explore collaborations with platforms like Meta in order to see whether we can make verification more easily accessible to NSO accounts. Moving on. Now, the youth focus programs and rebranding. I think it's about time that Scouts talk more about what can we do for the young people. So we shall focus our programs, we shall focus our social media presence on programs for the young people. Let's talk about nutrition, let's talk about health, let's talk about well-being. We shall build this positive image that Scouting serves and empower the communities. So when it comes to internal and the rebranding from within, we encourage Scouts to advocate for youth-relevant causes. We talk more about mental health. We talk more about climate action, climate change. And finally, we want to make Scouting more relatable to the next generation. Moving on. Regional coordination and brand guidelines. The Communication and External Relations has also worked on the APR emblem guideline that I believe have yet to be disseminated to members and NSOs. Once we believe that these are out for publication soon, we shall ensure that dissemination should go on to reach more audience out there. Now, once we have this guideline, we believe that NSOs could also develop something similar locally. When we have a guideline, we then have a certain pathway on how we should deal with our branding. And then not just guidelines, we also believe that we should develop infographics, simple explanations of how to properly use these logos. And not to mention, let's talk about commercial and non-commercial use in order to protect our brand integrity. Moving on, capacity and training. Over the past 3 years, we have done a lot of workshops on branding, partnership, crisis communications, and recently in the Asia-Pacific region this year, we also conducted the workshops on social impact advocacy. Now, these are all within the purview of the Communication and External Relations only. Now, we believe that by offering these capacity building trainings and workshops to our members, and are not just exclusive to any members, it's open to all age, all members, we believe that by having these capacity building opportunities, our members can further then enhance locally all these things that we try to disseminate within this workshop. So recommendations would be to continue offering this regional and sub-regional training, encourage NSOs. There's also recommendations within the breakout group to encourage NSOs to appoint public relations coordinators akin to the Safe from Harm and also the MOP coordinators, and ensure consistent communication across the movement when it comes to ensuring public relations. And finally, innovation and digital tools. There are suggestions within the breakout group that we should create a Scout app. But then again, I'm not sure if any of you have heard that we have some Scouts apps available for us to use. So can I have a show of hands? Can I see a show of hands? Those who have heard or downloaded the Scout app called Scout Pass. Now that's not too promising. I believe Scout Pass has a lot to offer. It's an ideal way to interact with members even in a physical setting. So I believe we should revisit these existing applications that is still available online, but then maybe we should also look into how to enhance them further. We should also look into having more understanding and guidelines on how do we use these digital tools that we have. Sometimes we're a bit confused. Do we go to the Treehouse? Do we go to the LMS, to the e-learning platforms? Where do we get our certificate? Where do I get our circulars? So I guess that is something that we can improve on in the coming few years. As a point of reflection, I believe that we also serving as a repertoire of the Communication External Relations Subcommittee in the past 3 years. I believe we have worked a lot, but we will be working a lot harder in the coming few years. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Muhammad Naufal Othman of Persekutuan Pengakap Malaysia. Any reflection, views? None? Thank you, Mr. Naufal. And thank you for all the great efforts, your ideas and suggestions. I think all the groups are doing very well. And that caused we have been able to finish the plenary early. So brothers and sisters Scouts, as we are ahead of time and we already conclude the formal proceedings for this afternoon programs, we decided to make earlier the gatherings at initially 17:30 until 1900s will be moved to 16:45 p.m. or 4:45 p.m. to 6:15 p.m. Please proceed to your respective room assignment after the break. For Chief Commissioner gathering will be at room 303A Alpha. And for International Commissioner gathering at room 303B Bravo. And Asia Pacific Regional Palaver or WASM Consultants and Trainers gathering at room 303E, ECO. Now please join us for refreshments in the usual place and proceed to your room assignment by 4:45 p.m. This means that we will finish early, so you will have ample time to go back to your hotel or go around. For the others, enjoy the rest of your day. Please come back tomorrow enthused and motivated for another great day of our conference program in Scout uniform. Day 5 sessions tomorrow, Thursday, the 16th of October, 2025, will commence promptly at 9 a.m. hours. Thank you everyone for your hard work. Have a great evening and see you all again tomorrow.